Friends, in many ways, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is an absolute theme park masterpiece, but it does have some shortcomings. And I'm curious, does this new permit Disney filed, does it give us an indication that maybe after being open for several years, Disney is ready to make some pivots to Galaxy's Edge, and more specifically, the marketplace in Batuu? Is it time to finally give up on some of these shops and bring in something new? Or are we simply looking at just giving customers more information about a place that was purposely designed to be a little bit confusing? Is Disney dumbing it down, or are they raising it up to a new level? That's the question today that we're going to break down, and a construction mystery we're gonna solve together. Brickey here for our second episode of Construction Mysteries, where we look at a permit that Disney filed with the city of Anaheim as a clue to solve the mystery on what's coming next. And before we get started with solving today's construction mystery, do me a quick favor, do you a quick favor, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's the best way we can keep working on solving these mysteries together, where I bring you in-depth coverage of Disneyland's design, its construction. I love to study the past of Disneyland so we can better predict its future. And over here on the Brickey vlog, we go deep, deep, deep in the minutia, and I'd love to have you with me. All right, let's break down this permit and see what's coming next. Disney filed a new permit for the Galaxy's Edge market space. And why this is important is that this new sign is going to require a structural upgrade and electricity. So therefore, it's going to be lit up, and it's probably going to be big and in a space where a sign doesn't currently exist. So is it to tell people about what already is here? Or is this a sign that something new is coming to a struggling part of the park? Because it's not listed as a repair, it's listed as something new. And if there was ever a part of Galaxy's Edge that I would see them ready to make some changes, it would probably be here, where not everything in the marketplace has been a smash hit. But then again, maybe they're just trying to add a little more information to this part of Disneyland and dumb it down a little bit. The phrase structural and electrical tells us a couple of things. This isn't just going to be a banner that's hanging, and it is something that's probably going to have a decent amount of weight to it, which would mean scale. Because if it's going to need infrastructure, it's probably bigger than just, a little small sign that they wouldn't have to take out a building permit for. As the market stands today, there are really no signs for any of the locations. And I just want to say, I think that this is absolutely beautiful, and Disney nailed it. I mean, it's just design perfection. But then again, maybe they made it a little too highbrow, and maybe the sign is just to let people know what's already here. And instead of it being a sign for one location, it could be a sign giving information to all the locations. Like, when you go to the mall and there's the little kiosk that kind of tells you where everything's at, it could be something like that. A couple of those have been added around the land. Wayfinding signs to let people know where they're at and where they're going. But there are a couple locations here that if they were going to get swapped out for a different idea, it would not surprise me, because they're hardly ever busy. And even when they're busy, they're not Disney busy, which is like Christmas Eve busy. I mean, the park is still open right now. But obviously, one of the best things about this land is the lighting. So the fact that it needs electrical and it's going to be lit up, it only makes sense because Galaxy's Edge is beautiful during the day. It's breathtaking at night. I absolutely adore this land. And so a sign coming here with proper lighting, for anything else, I'm just excited to see what they come up with, because they've just knocked it out of the park. But it would be hard to say what location needs a sign the most, because if you were to put a sign on one location, it would kind of break the flow of what they're going for here. This is supposed to be the bridge between the Resistance and the First Order. This is where the locals live, on the edge of the galaxy. So everything here is supposed to feel very authentic, very rooted into the culture. And also, these are people that are laying low, that don't want to be noticed. So as the land stands today, it would be weird if one of these locations got a big bright sign, which would make me think that it's probably a wayfinding sign for the entire land, like this one over here. Because when Galaxy's Edge first opened up, the number one question Disney would get from their guests is, where's the Star Wars land? Which is a trick question because there is no Star Wars land, there's Galaxy's Edge. So to make things easier, they added a bunch of these guys right here, similar to the ones that you see at Epcot for the wayfinding to let people know how to get around Future World. And I also want to add, they are amazing for taking photos at night because they will illuminate your face if you need something too. But these weren't here on the opening days. And obviously they had to put a footer in the ground and run electrical there. So maybe they're going to put one of those to tell everybody what's happening in the old Space Mall. Ronto Roasters and Dock Ondoors are pretty easy to spot. But when you get into the different little stalls, it's a little bit harder to figure out where they are and what they do. But is anybody ever really going to call any of these stalls by their name? I mean, off the top of my head, I know the Creature stall. I don't even know if I'm right with that one. So does Disney feel like they need a sign for Jewels of Birth? I had to look at my notes. Do they feel like that these need a better identity? Because the overall design language here is pretty easy to figure out. You know you're in the shops. Each one of these little cubby holes makes it very easy to figure out. There's a different market, a different proprietor in each one of these little nooks. But this one, for example, started out selling popcorn, grain. And now they sell coffee and like I think a waffle fry and all kinds of stuff. So maybe this is a sign that there's some change coming to the shops. I mean, in all honesty, none of these stores do a ton of business. So maybe if one was going to get swapped out, get a different theme applied to it, it could give the overall space the injection that it needs. Because, like with malls, all you need is one good anchor and then it brings everybody else in. But which shop would you take out first? The clothing store that's hardly ever busy? The little weird knick-knack store that sells the same stuff basically that's outside of Rise of the Resistance? The toy store, which has phenomenal toys in it? Or the creature stall, where it almost feels like they've given up on making new creatures. It's kind of the same 6 to 8 products over and over and over again. And Disney stores normally add a lot of variety. But then there's Sack's Kettle, which I don't think really popped the way that they thought that it would. So I do think it would be possible for one of these to get a switch over. And if that's the case, it would be exciting to see what they come up with, and does it fix the problem of this just kind of being the space version of Garden Walk? I mean, honesty in the comments. Have you ever came here and had a hard time finding what you were looking for? And the first time you came here, if you can remember that, did you ever feel lost or confused? I felt confused the first time, but I knew that was part of the charm, and I enjoyed it. But I could see when they're looking at their line sheet that accounting doesn't enjoy it. Now, it is interesting to note that this is happening in 2025. The land opened up in 2019, was closed for 400 days, but they now have kind of enough analytical data to know what's working and what's not working. And probably also to know, like, retail-wise, where are their soft spots, what needs more attention, and possibly what is it time to give up on, and what is that next idea to bring off the bench. Now, I'm future casting with that, but I don't think most of you would argue with me that this probably could use some better tenants, because aesthetically, as I've stated, it's a masterpiece. But business-wise, I don't think that it's a masterpiece. But maybe it's just Disney responding to guests being a little bit confused. And in all fairness, it's not always this dead. And when it is busy, it probably makes it even harder for guests to find the shop that they're looking for, or to even know what they're looking at, when there's really no visible signs of what's in these stalls, in the times that they are actually covered with human bodies of people that are stopping and shopping. So in that regard, maybe it's a subtle fix to issues they're having without a major overhaul like I'm kind of hoping for. But as I stated, this is a new addition. It's not a repair. So one way or the other, something new here is showing up. It's just a matter of how much new are we getting? Is it subtle, or is it pushing the market in a new direction? That's really the debate that I wanted to create with this video, and I hope that you're commenting below what your thoughts are, because I feel like fans have a lot of thoughts about Galaxy's Edge, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about the shops. I thought this would be a great moment to like spark some of that conversation. But hear me out. Could there be something that would actually solve all this? Is there like a new take on a food stand or a new merch line that could bring life into here? Like, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Is there something that could actually save it and make it better? Mandalorian has its own film coming out next year. You know, there are some movements in the Disney space that weren't happening. They have had a couple of small new wins since this was built. So maybe they're going to try to reflect that. Or maybe, just maybe, this would be another step of Disneyland breaking the weird timeline, and maybe we could see some original, you know, our generation Star Wars stuff showing up here. I mean, maybe I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I think it would solve a lot of problems. Could be something small, but could be the first ever major rebrand in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I mean, come on. There's no way that milk stand's gonna make it another 4 years, right? Right? I'm asking, I'm not telling. Like, I just don't see that the milk stand can make it another 4 or 5 years. Like, butterbeer, it is not. And I do want to point out that with permits, sometimes they stitch a bunch of different ones together. So this is one permit for one sign. Maybe it could be an indication that more are to follow. I would love to know your thoughts below. Is this just one sign that's coming, or one step toward a newly branded Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? I really hope it's the second. I would be excited to see them dream more in this space, but obviously I want to know what you're thinking.